your husband is wanting to leave you right now and you are completely unsure as to why this is happening, then make sure you watch this entire video. Now, I know that going through this kind of pain is really, really difficult. It can bring up so many insecurities inside of you. And so firstly, my heart goes out to you. But secondly, I really want you to know that, there is hope. Transformation is real. And I see it time and time again with my clients where they're able to save their marriage from the brink of divorce, or, just when it feels like all hope is lost, that those shifts can happen. Just like my clients like Monique and Laurie and Angie and Sarah and all these beautiful women who have done a lot of work on the inside to create the shifts that they're looking for in their marriage. So make sure you take some notes and so you can get the most out of this entire video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk you through more about understanding male psychology and relationships, how to really heal from within, and also the practical steps you need to apply in order to really shift your marriage and turn it around from the brink of divorce. Now, when we're going through a tough time in our marriage, and then if your husband says that he wants to separate, there's obviously that initial shock. And then once that kind of shock wears off a little bit, then we start trying to figure out why, how did it get to this point? What's going on? And I actually think that, some people often talk about that, what's the point of even doing a bit of a diagnosis on why, and why don't we just try and focus on the next steps, the present moment, and then what we need to do to move forward. But here's the thing, you're in survival mode right now. Your brain is at a place where it literally fears death. And it, on a conscious level, we can look at this and think, well, obviously you're not going to die, but it's more about survival of your life. You've built this family, you've built this lifestyle and so on. And if one person leaves that, then suddenly it's like, what? How am I going to survive? What's going on? What am I going to do now? So when you're in that survival state, it's very difficult to just say, well, look, I'm going to focus on the present moment now and let's just be pragmatic and practical. Now, some people might do that if that's how they're wired, but a lot of people aren't like that in those moments. And one of the things I really believe is important when you're trying to move forward is that to get to that place of clarity, you kind of have to understand how it's got to this point and why it's happening the way it is. Because what that does is it allows you to get to a place of acceptance. Once we understand why, and we can get to a place of acceptance, then we can be practical about the future. But if we're sort of constantly trying to figure out why, and we're not actually getting those answers, but if you're always trying to be practical all the time because you think that that's the right thing to do, the thing is your brain is always going to find yourself going back to, but how did it get to this place? What's going on? What's going on in his mind? And how do we move forward here? What do we need to do in order to really go to that next level and create the shifts that we want to? So that's why I think it's really important to actually really understand and get some clarity around how it's actually got to this point and why is it that he actually wants to leave. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through a few reasons why is it that he actually wants to leave, to help you to find that clarity and gain that acceptance of your present circumstances. Now, the first reason that he wants to leave is because of loss of connection. Now, in a relationship, in the early stages, of course, we have this bond with someone. It's almost like a sales pitch. We put our best foot forward in order to try and win the other person over. And in this instance, both parties are putting their best foot forward. And so there is that initial connection. But then over time, I honestly feel a lot of couples start to get lazy. Other things get in the way. We start to have kids. We get focused on our career, etc. And we stop investing and putting time and energy into what matters most, which is our marriage, which is our family. And I've yet to find anyone who's been on their deathbed and gone, oh, well, I wish I'd spent more time at work. Most people often say, I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I wish I'd spent more time being happy. I wish I'd spent more time with my loved ones, etc. And so because there isn't this effort that's been put into the marriage, over time, both parties don't foster and nurture the things that are most important in the marriage. And so what happens is there's a slow disconnection at that point. And then when there's that slow level of disconnection, what happens is we start to get resentful towards the other person. We start to feel rejected by the other person. And then that then creates even more disconnection. And as time goes on and there's more and more disconnection, we start to get to a place of effectively repression, where the problems that were there initially caused pain, but then over time we sort of suppress it, and then it eventually gets into a place of repression. And repression's like, well, what's the point? There's no point. Our marriage has been dead for such a long time, so whatever. And often people don't think about it either. They're not conscious about it. So what they do is they focus on their work, they focus on hanging out with their friends, they focus on other things that bring them joy, that makes them feel significant, that makes them feel happy and joyful and gives them variety in their life, because their married life is not getting them what they want and what they need. And so that results in often a man just going, you know what? I'm done. We've been disconnected for so long. There tends to be a loss of that real depth that there was over the years. And it's almost like you become roommates. Now, there's one point I wanted to make here. And I don't want this to trigger anyone too much, but it probably will. And that is, make sure, for any of you who are at a stage in your marriage where things are okay, but they're not great, you need to start working on these things now. You need to start really prioritizing your marriage. You need to start making, at a real point to develop that connection now. Because one of the things that does hurt my heart a lot is that so many people come to me and effectively see me as the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. It's like they've gone through this period of time, they think they've been able to resolve their challenges themselves, they haven't gotten anywhere because they're too afraid to confront those problems. Then over time it just gets worse and worse, and before they know it, you know what? It's like, help, I need help now. But you really want to confront these problems as soon as possible. Okay, so that's just for the few who are watching this video and aren't in those dire straits. Now, if you are in that place and there is that loss of connection, you really have to start building it from the ground up. And that means that you've got to start really focusing on your own healing internally, because if there's been a loss of connection and there hasn't been the effort that's been put in there, or there's been a loss of your ability to communicate with them, then that's also a reflection of your own ability and your own skill set to be able to communicate with that other person as well. And obviously, they are having their own challenges. But the only thing that you can control is you. So you've got to make sure that you're elevating that. And I've got many other videos in my channel to help you with this. Okay? But the loss of connection over time is one of the first reasons why men will often leave in their marriage. And the second reason why a lot of men will often leave are these feelings of complete inadequacy and failure. See, for a guy, if he feels like he's a failure, if he feels like he's not good enough, over time, if his life begins to reflect that, so he's not doing very, very well at work, he's struggling with finances, he's struggling with his own health, he might be drinking a bit, and so on. If all of that's going on, and you're fighting for the marriage, and you're trying to do everything you can to make it work, he's going to slowly over time just feel like, look, I'm just a loser. And why the hell would you want to be around me? Why would you even want to make any effort for me? I'm nothing. I don't mean much at all. I'm so tired. It's all just a bit of a waste of time because you're with someone who is a problem in your life. And why do you want to be with me anyway? Because I'm just such a loser. And so a lot of men can get to this place where they just feel like such a failure and such a loser. And so then what happens is like, you know what? Rather than actually fighting for the marriage, they want to get away from it because they often feel that everyone else thinks they're a loser. So why on earth would you want to be with him? And that's really hard to take because you obviously care about him. You probably have even more compassion for the fact that he's going through that stuff. But for him, it's like bringing up more and more of that pain because the more kinder you are, the nicer you are, often that he'll feel like, why are you doing this? Because I'm such a loser. I remember years ago, I had a really good friend of mine, and we're still very good friends to this day, but I would say really nice, he's like, shut up, bro. I'm a fucking loser, right? And so this is the thing. He didn't want to hear that because he was so addicted to his pain. He was so addicted to all that negativity on the inside. And that's why so much of my work is about how to heal on the inside, because we don't heal that stuff on the inside. It's very difficult to try and influence and impact people on the outside as well. Okay, so that's the second reason why a lot of men will want to leave. And the third reason why he wants to leave is because he potentially is having an affair or engaging with someone, whether it be emotionally or physically or both, in an environment where there are no real perceived consequences. And what I mean by this, obviously his actions are leading to consequences in terms of you and your environment that you're in. But as far as him engaging with this other person, that it's fresh, it's new. He can bring a different version of himself into it. So it almost feels like it's like a clean slate on some level. Now, here's the thing. I have seen it so many times where this sort of behavior occurs, but very rarely do I see that person who's actually going out there and cheating actually end up with that person long term. And this is why I kind of wanted to really reaffirm to you that there is hope. So many times I see people going off and doing those things, and then 6 months later coming back and go, what the hell was I thinking? See, in that environment, what I mean when I talk about no perceived consequences again, is that they can engage in certain behaviors, but by hooking up with that person, there's no kids, there's no financial consequences, there's no sort of locking in of lives. It's just a fun, enjoyable time on some level for them. And there's also a thrill to it as well for a lot of these people. There is an excitement that comes with it because it's unknown. There's variety there on some level, and it's almost like it really excites them at quite a deep level. Now, from here, what do you do? How do you move forward? I think the first thing I really want to remind you once again is that there is hope. As I said, people that I've worked with have their husbands have gone off and hooked up with someone else only to come back because they've realized what they actually have had in the first place. Okay? And often relationships that are built on these wobbly foundations where they go off and hook up with someone else and they think it's going to work, it very rarely works. There's always some problem, some issue that comes up, and then they start to realize, hang on, I kind of had it pretty good back there. So I think that's the first thing that we've got to remember. And the second thing we've got to remember is that we've got to make sure that we see the separation as an opportunity. Now, yep, I get it. You're going to look at me and go, what the hell are you talking about? But just remember that when we see it as an opportunity, what we're talking about is we're seeing it as an opportunity for our own growth and our own healing. Remember I said before about the loss of connection. It takes two people to get to a place where there's a loss of connection. I hope we can all agree on that. In no way are you responsible for him cheating, but you have to play your part and take ownership for the loss of connection between two parties. And this is, if there's a loss of connection with two clients, it's both parties that have played a part in that. When there's a loss of connection when it comes to two parties in a relationship, once again, both parties have to take ownership for that. So if you can do that and really understand, okay, well, was I struggling to speak my truth? Was I afraid of, if he was going through some stuff, I was afraid of saying what I wanted to say because I was afraid he was going to get angry at me. I was afraid he was going to reject me on some level, or I wanted to organize a date night, but he didn't seem like he was that interested, so I didn't bother asking him. Or I really wanted to go on a date night, but I wanted him to initiate it. I don't want to be the one to initiate, and so on. There's so many different variables and so many different permutations, but if we understand our part in the process, then we can really start to create those shifts on that front. Okay, so those are the two things that I really want you to kind of spend some time focusing on. Firstly, remember that there is hope. Two, make sure you see it as an opportunity to really focus on your own healing. Now, how do you do the healing work? Well, it's all about going into the depths of your mind and your emotions. Those are the key parts of this process. The strategic part, in terms of communication and so on, can be easy once you've got your mind and your emotions in the best place possible. So if you're in a place where you're struggling with dealing with your emotions, you're not sure how to move forward, you may have got some wounds around abandonment and insecurities, around feeling rejected all the time, feeling inadequate on some level as well, or at a deeper level, feeling like your self-worth is through the floor and you have no self-love at all, then that's where I really go deep with my clients to help them to heal those wounds so they can find a new sense of self. They can reconnect with who they really are. And I do that through my program called the Authentic Relationship System, which is an amazing program where it helps you to, from the ground up, really create those shifts at the deepest level, help you to find those foundations so that you can move forward and have the life that you truly deserve, have the marriage that you truly deserve. And I really believe that when we heal on the inside, our external world can start to shift as well. So if it feels right for you, if you connect with what I'm saying and you know, you like my New Zealand accent and all of that stuff, then all you need to do is in the description section below, just click on that link which says book a call with me. Click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time just so I can learn a little bit more about you and where you are now, where you want to get to, and how we can bridge that gap in the shortest possible time. I can't wait to be of service to you. So once again, just click on that link and I will contact you at that scheduled time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know what the biggest challenges are that you're facing right now, biggest takeaway from this video, or even you just want to share a little bit more about your story or ask any questions, just write them in the comments below and I'll make sure I respond to every single one of you. And if you want to learn whether men regret losing a good woman, click this video above. And if you want to learn how to get your husband back, click this video above. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.